It's that time again, folks. Grand Slam Track Philadelphia is coming up fast, and we're going to be previewing the races and giving some good old-fashioned speculation as to who we think is going to win. We all know the races by this point: the Olympic 1500 meter podium in Cole Hocker, Josh Kerr and Jared Naguse, as well as 800 meter silver medalist and 2023 world champion Marco Arop. The challengers are looking strong as ever as well, with two long-awaited names in Hobbs Kessler and Josh Hoey being announced. Hobbs Kessler is a 3:29 1500 meter runner and 1:43 800 runner. He is a bronze medalist in the 2024 World Indoor Championships, and he was the only man in the Paris Olympics to get to at least the semi-finals of both the 1500 meter and 800 meter. In the 1500 meter, he made it to the final and placed 5th in one of the most stacked races in the event's history. Now, Josh Hoey is an interesting case because he was something of a nobody before this indoor season started, but in the winter of 24 to 25, he's had a set of breakout performances. He's attributed perseverance and coaching changes as being responsible for dropping his 800 meter personal best from a 1:47.26 to a 1:43.24. This is actually the second fastest time ever ran on an indoor track, behind 800 meter legend Wilson Kipketer. Both guys are true middle distance runners, specializing in both the 8 and 1500 meter. This contrasts to the racers and a lot of middle distance pros these days who are either only 800 specialists or more kind of 1500 and 5k based runners. Because of this, many have highlighted that the Grand Slam format suits them well and will make them strong contenders for the overall title, and GST have finally been able to sign them. The same can also be said for our two other challengers, Elliot Giles and Samuel Chappell. Giles is a UK athlete best known for holding the current road mile world record at a 3:51.2 in a race where he outkicked none other than Jared Naguse to take the win. He also holds the third fastest indoor 800 meter ever of 1:43.63, a time that was only just beaten by Hoey in November. Although he has preferred the 800 meter in previous years, Giles has been upping his mileage recently in the last year and building his 1500 meter strength. This allowed him to run a 3:30 in the Oslo Diamond League last year. Samuel Chappell is a Dutch 800 1500 meter specialist. He holds national records in the 800, 1000 and 1500 meter and is coming off a stellar indoor season, which peaked with him becoming the 2025 800 meter European indoor champion. Although he has the slowest PBs of the field, he is in good form and has shown strong tactical abilities, which will be key to his path to victory in the slam. So now we've been introduced to who our competitors are, how will the races play out? We'll start off with the 800 meter this time, as that is actually the first event in the schedule of the Philly Slam, in contrast to the last two slams where the 1500 meter was the first in the short distance category. It's also much easier to predict in the 1500 because boy, that is going to be tough to really figure out. But I think it's no secret that Marco Arop, one of, if not possibly the best 800 meter runner today, is going into this race as a strong favourite. Although you do have some strong 800 runners such as Hoey and Kessler, Arop is the only true 800 meter specialist in this field, and it is crucial that he takes the full 12 points for him to win this race. In the last two slams, we have seen him take out the race super hard and front run to victory. In Kingston it was a 1:45 due to the wind, and in Miami it was a 1:43. He beat the likes of Wanyoni, Hoppel, Peterborough and Kethebigile Hangora doing so. And I'm so grateful for Arop's tactics here because it makes the race much easier to figure out what's going to happen. If Arop does his thing, which I think he should, he is on paper the strongest athlete by about 2 seconds, he should take out the race right from the beginning, go hard, outrun everyone else. This is his event, this is his wheelhouse, it is his race to lose. I would say his biggest challenger is probably of course Josh Hoey, coming off that stellar indoor performance, but the fact of the matter is we haven't actually seen Hoey in an outdoor race, and you get some athletes where A, they have a really strong indoor season and maybe take some time to reset a little bit after that indoor season. I mean, we saw Jared Naguse for instance break the indoor mile record, Cole Hocker break the indoor 3k record, and yet they're sort of coming down from that peak a little bit, Hocker especially. But even Naguse, he front ran the majority of the Miami Slam, but was only able to come up with a 3:34, although he did place second, which is of course good positionally. It is worth noting as well that these races were paced, so of course that's always going to help out with the faster times, but the fact of the matter is, I think that whilst Hoey has shown really good performances recently, Arop is just a level above, and we don't know if Hoey's going to be able to translate his form in the indoor season into the outdoor track. So to keep things simple, I am going with Arop taking the full 12 points on the 800 meters, with Hoey coming in close behind. Now we move on to the 1500 meter, and me, it's a difficult one to discuss because there are so many strong contenders who will neck and neck with each other, different possibilities to explore. We all counted Kerr out in the Miami Slam. I said in my prediction video I don't think he's going to win it. Turns out he won the Slam, he's had an excellent month and has really been able to rebound from that poor Kingston performance. We thought Cole Hocker, Olympic champion, stellar indoor season, was going to do great in these slams, but he's kind of had a fairly mediocre performance overall, to be honest. He's not done bad in the 1500 meter, but it seems that he's not really an early season performer and is still taking some time to reset after the indoor season. And then you have wildcards. I mean, Kessler also broke the indoor mile record in the same race as Naguse. Technically he didn't get the record at the time of course, but he still ran sub 3:47, so he's looking strong. And then you have Marco Arop, 3:35 in the 1500 meter in Miami, 4-second personal best. I counted him out after Kingston. I was just thinking his frame is too big, he's just not genetically adapted to be able to do well in the longer distances. But whilst he's definitely not a favourite to win or maybe come in a podium position, he's definitely not a non-factor anymore. Then Josh Hoey, how's he going to do? 3:33 low I think it was in the New Balance KO mile all the way back in November. And that was before already really peaked in his indoor season around the February timeframe. And what makes this truly difficult, as I've mentioned in my other two slam predictions, is that there isn't really a dedicated front runner. In Kingston, Hocker of all people took the front. In Miami, Nuguse did a bulk of the front running. But the fact of the matter is that I don't see this being a fast race. It's still fairly early season, they're going to have tired legs from the 800 meter as well, and that's especially going to target the guys who you would expect to do most of the front running, because the 1500 guys are less adapted to the 800 and therefore likely to recover a little less well. Fact is that there are a lot of unknowns with these guys going into this race. We saw how Kerr was able to rebound from Kingston and put on a good show in Miami. Hocker on the other hand has kind of had some mixed performances, but he said in his Team Sova video that he's been feeling much better since Kingston. The question is he going to continue that trajectory from Miami, or is he still going to take his time a little bit to hit that real peak? Goose has been the most consistent of them, but unfortunately he's kind of been that consistent B+ athlete that we always see him as. He came second in both races, putting on a strong performance, but he has yet to have that performance where we really think, yes, Nuguse is the one to win this race. So I'm going to count out Nuguse a little bit here for the win, because he just doesn't have that X factor that makes me think he's convincingly going to beat the other guys. He very well could, of course. This is anyone's race, it's neck and neck. But I've got to pick someone somehow, eh? Then it's between Kerr and Hocker, and when it comes to form, we know that Kerr is in good shape. Unless, of course, he's nursing an injury we don't know about, but I guess we'll find out on the day. But assuming neither of them are, who do I think is going to win? Well, between the two, and I don't think people are going to like this, I'm going to pick Josh Kerr. One of this is because I prefer to base my predictions off of what athletes have already shown, rather than the projections of what they might show. Yes, it's fairly likely that Hocker comes into Philly in good shape, and better shape than he did in Miami, but I don't want to assume that in a race that is so close. And even if he does come in better shape, you'd expect Kerr to as well. And the second thing is, I've mentioned this before, but I think Kerr is a really strong tactical racer in terms of his positioning and tactical mindset. Hocker, of course, has great attributes, he's known for his kick, but A, he hasn't really shown that so far this early season, and B, I actually think in the last two slams, he hasn't placed himself very well positionally. In the Kingston slam, we saw him take a surprise lead. You'd expect Hocker to sit and kick on the others, relying on his superior finishing speed, instead of trying to outrun everyone using his less developed aerobic strength. Maybe he was trying to control the pace early and not let it go out too fast, but it still doesn't explain why he just let Nuguse overtake him with only 500 to go. Maybe he wanted Nuguse to expend energy leading into the last third of the race and bet he could kick on him, but Hocker just let himself fade to the middle of the pack when he should have been breathing down Nuguse's neck. He still seemed to have some energy left as well as he rebounded in the last 200, but this tactic of front running the hardest bit of the race and then slotting into the middle of the pack in the last third was really odd. The best explanation is that his fitness was simply not there, but then why did he try and lead the whole race, and how come he could still make up good ground in the last 200? In Miami, he made more errors by letting himself get trapped with one lap to go. He stalked Nuguse for the majority of the race well, but then he just let Arup and Kerr box him in for the final lap. And I think you could see he had more in the tank for the last 150, but was stuck behind the others and therefore couldn't use his kick to the best extent. By contrast, Kerr has always put himself in a position to use his abilities to their fullest extent. In Miami, he stuck in the middle of the pack and then moved up to the front for the final lap. He timed his move to Arup's move because he realised that Arup would just box him in if he lets the Canadian overtake him with just 400 meters to go. And in doing so, he forced an already tired Arup to run the bend on the outside, further draining his energy. Kerr did a similar thing in Kingston when Wanyoni tried to pass him on the back straight, but Wanyoni was more patient than Arup and slotted behind Kerr on the inside when Kerr denied the pass. Kerr did have to run the outside a little on the final bend, but it's better than him being stuck behind a charging Wanyoni in the final 100. Of course, Kerr finished poorly in the Kingston 1500, but I think that was purely because he did not have the fitness to place well regardless. He put himself in the right place at the right time, but he just wasn't sharp enough to take advantage of his good positioning. Hocker's tactics were not bad because he has not won either slam. He has placed reasonably well in both, but they were bad because he didn't make the best use of his abilities. He gave himself too much work in Kingston to make his kick a real threat, and he let himself get boxed in Miami, which again, stifled his lethal kick. Maybe I'm missing something here, but I just don't think Hocker played his cards right in the last two races, whereas Kerr has a history of putting himself in the best positions. And this, I think, will be the difference maker between Kerr and Hocker in this race. So with all this being said, maybe it's recency bias, maybe I'm just a Kerr fanboy, you guys have got me there. But in a race that's so close, I'm going to pick Josh Kerr again to win the 1500 meters in the Philly Slam. His positioning is excellent, he looks in great form, and I think that's going to set him apart slightly from the others. That said, we do have some dark horses and some unknown quantities in this race. It's very possible that Arup surprises us in a tactical race in like a 3:34 performance again. He could definitely be up there in the mix. I think he's still gaining tactical experience in the 1500 meter and gauging where his body is at. If you listen to Josh Kerr's interviews, he was saying that when Arup came behind in the 600 meters mark, Arup was breathing super heavily, and Kerr knew by having watched his races and just hearing his breathing that Arup wasn't going to be able to maintain that push all the way to the end. Josh Hoey is another person I'll be very interested to see in the 1500 meter. But even looking at his indoor season, I do wonder if he's maybe suited to the shorter distances. I mean, a simple analysis of his personal best with the World Athletics point scale shows a pretty linear progression of the 800 being his best event, the 1000 meter being his second best, and as you go up to the 1500 meter and beyond, it gets significantly worse. But again, whilst I think Hoey has had a really good indoor season, there's still a lot of questions about whether he'll be able to translate that into his outdoor performance, whether he's properly properly reset from the indoor season, and if he's actually going to get a great 1500 meter time. Because the real highlight of his indoor season was the 800. The 1500 was solid, but like, it's not making me think he's going to beat Hocker on a goose, you know? Then of course you have Hobbs Kessler, who was highly requested for the Grand Slam series. The 1500 meter is his better event if you just look at his personal bests, but again, he hasn't really shown me anything that makes me think he has a good chance of beating the top 3. Of course, this is a tactical race, so anything can happen, and it will be interesting to see how his 800 meter speed plays a part. I definitely wouldn't be surprised if he's able to sit in that pack and then launch a strong offensive in the last 100 meters. But again, the one outdoor performance we have, it was on the road to be fair, was the Adidas Road to Records in the 1 mile. And I mean, he didn't look terrible, but he didn't look fantastic either. You can see him really grimacing there behind Wanyonyi, not able to keep up. Josh Hoey was also in this race and only ran a 3:59. And again, maybe this was just a bad race, but this kind of does reinforce my hypothesis that Josh Hoey is much better suited when it comes to the shorter distances. I have neglected a little bit to talk about Giles and Chappell. The main reason for this is quite simply that Chappell's personal best is a 3:35. I was able to find a clip of that race. Of course, it was run indoors, and if you look at just the general state of the race, he basically front run most of it with very little crowd. So I would expect him to maybe get a 3:34 or maybe even a 3:33 if the conditions are right. But the fact is, if he's needing to run a personal best in order to keep up with these guys, he's not going to have that finishing speed. And whilst the 800 meter is his better performance, it's still a 1:45. Giles is an interesting case because on his day, I think he could be a real competitor. He's very experienced when it comes to the racing circuit, decent strength, decent speed, but he DNF'd in the indoor season for the UK champs. And listening to his most recent vlog on the channel, he's been battling with, of course, an Achilles injury as always. So there's no reason I would think that he's going to be coming in super good shape for this. I also actually find it quite interesting that he's decided to do Grand Slam, given that he said he's focusing much more on the 1500. Like, he's basically called himself a 1500 runner, not an 800 runner. It kind of pains me to say this because I'm a Giles fanboy. I will root for Elliot Giles, and I really do hope he does well in this. But I think he only has a decent chance of beating Chappell in this race. Maybe Arup if he gasses himself out. Finally, we then go on to who is going to win the overall slam. And again, this is going to be the trickiest prediction to make out of all the slams so far. Because whilst the point system does favour the winner heavily, because there are so many more generalists in this race as opposed to an 800 or 1500 meter specialist, there are a lot more cases where someone, for instance, could come second place in both races and then take the overall slam title like that. Maybe Kessler or Hoey stick behind Arup for second in the 800, then place well in a tactical 1500 meter for the overall slam win. Which would kind of feel a little bit weird if you didn't win a single race and still won the whole meet. But if we start doing the maths on this, the maximum points someone can gain without winning either race is 16 points. So either winner of the 1500 and 800 just need to place 4th in one race to guarantee that they are only going to be challenged by the winner of the other event. Which makes winning the slam without winning either race a tall order. Based on my individual race predictions, that leaves Arup and Kerr as my top 2 contenders. Can Arup place 4th in the 1500 meter? I think it's a tall order, but it's not impossible in a tactical race. I don't think it's unreasonable to think he beat Chappell. Giles with not great form. Hoey, we don't know what kind of form he's looking at as well for the longer distances. Kessler would be tough, but it's not an out of this world possibility. I can see Kerr placing 4th in the 800. He won't beat Arup, he won't beat Hoey, he probably won't beat Kessler. It might be tough for him to place over Nagoose, given that the Goose has shown strong improvement in the event. Hocker has that natural speed, but is beatable. Giles and Chappell are also beatable, but with Giles' experience and Chappell's form, I can see either of them beating him, though maybe Giles can pull out another killer move on him. Generally though, I think deciding whether Kerr or Arup will do better in their non-specialist discipline is so speculative that you can't make a decisive prediction on it. But I can say that Arup has a better chance of winning the 800 meters than Kerr does of the 15. Arup is going to need to give a surprisingly good 1500 performance to give himself a good chance of winning the slam, and if the 800 doesn't go perfectly, then he has almost no chance. But despite this, I am going to pick him to win the Philly Slam, just as I did with Kingston. He's come second in the last 2 slams overall, with his 800 performance carrying his points. I don't see him doing fantastically in the 15, but it's possible he does just well enough to give himself enough points to win, and he is the favourite for the 800. So that's my pick. Arup, please make this prediction come true. If you want to see a video about the career and controversies of Elliot Giles in his last season that explains this clip, then click on this video here. Or click on this video of mine that YouTube suggests you watch, and we all know they're never wrong about this, so you should probably listen to them. Please give me your thoughts in the comments below about your predictions, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy training.